safety needs covered. Literally.
Welcome once again to Leto's Law. Here's Steve Leto.
Kevin sent me a note and Steve, check out this story, and it involves a couple things we talked about before, one of which is if you get pulled over by a police officer in a traffic stop and you have something on your phone, like, I don't know, your driver's license or your proof of insurance, and a lot of companies are now pushing people to do things like that, to keep these things on their phone instead of having, like, say, a paper copy in your wallet. And so to show it to a police officer, you got to hold your phone up and go like this. And what if the cop goes, well, I can't see that. Hang on, and just takes the phone out of your hand. Now the police officer has your phone in their hands, and what if they poke around inside there and look for other stuff, which could happen. We know it could happen because here it did happen. So this is from the Herald Online, heraldonline.com. Cop stole nude photos from woman's phone during Missouri traffic stop. And she was told that by the FBI. Now, Kate Linderman wrote this story. There is a lot to unpack here and to read between the lines, because when the FBI notifies you that a police officer took things off of your phone, it leads you to believe that something's going on with that cop, such that the FBI is investigating him or her as to what they're doing on the job. So it seemed like a routine traffic stop for a woman from Missouri in February when the taillight was out on her car. And you know what's weird? I think the entire time I've owned cars, I've only had to replace one taillight, but they do go out apparently. The officer asked the woman for her insurance information, so she unlocked her phone to show it to the police officer. And this is happening in the town of Florissant. The officer took her phone without her permission and took it back to his vehicle. So she showed it to him, but he took possession of it and wandered off with it. And in the process, he disconnected it from the Bluetooth associated with the woman's car, and that's according to court documents. So she assumed that the cop was just running her plates or performing other official police business. She waited 10 minutes for him to return with her phone. The officer eventually brought the phone back and did not issue a ticket. You know, those pictures are so good, I'm going to give you just a warning. What? Months later, the woman was contacted by the FBI. Officials shared information with her that led the woman and her husband to file a lawsuit against the officer that pulled her over and the city of Florissant. The news agency here reached out to the city and police department, but did not immediately hear back. Agents showed the woman a photograph blown up large and printed out of her undressed that she had sent to her husband via text, according to the lawsuit. The FBI told the woman the photo was found on a Florissant police officer's device, the lawsuit said. Authorities discovered this after the photo had been shared with other people, according to court documents. So we don't know if the FBI started an investigation of this officer or was simply doing an investigation of other officers, and this popped up. So worse, to get this photograph, the officer would have seen multiple other unclothed photos of the couple, the civil lawsuit says. It added that the officer would have had to scroll back years in text messages to find the photos. So that's assuming they're only in the text messages. They weren't like in a photo album on that phone. I don't know. I'm just saying, I know on my phone, I take photographs with my phone. As many of you know, I photograph animals, for instance. And those photographs are in folders on my phone. So when I go to find those photographs, I go to a photos folder and open it up. However, if I want to see photos that people texted to me, if I haven't downloaded them to my phone, I have to go into the texts and look through the texts. And presumably, if I sent someone a picture via text, and for whatever reason it's no longer in my photo album, well, it might be available as a text also. So, not sure exactly what happened here. But the local officer took a photo of the photograph using his own device without the woman's consent, violating the couple's privacy according to the lawsuit. So they're saying that he literally took his phone and held it above the other phone and took a picture of that way. If he did that, I guess it would be harder for her to have detected this earlier. But like I said, I was thinking that maybe he just texted it to himself or emailed it to himself. But they're saying here that he photographed her phone with that photo showing on it. So the couple is seeking $25,000 damages, and of course it's a couple because they're saying that photograph may have involved the man as well. So the official story is there's only one photograph that was stolen off this woman's phone, but it was shown to other people. And of course, once something is in digital form being shared, it's out there and you can never get it back or stop it. So couple seeking $25,000 damages, and the town of Florist is about a 17-mile drive northwest from St. Louis. I've mentioned before that I did a talk show in Flint, Michigan, and used to talk about things in the news, much like I do here. There was a story at that time about a woman who had some photographs taken of herself where she was not wearing a lot of clothing, and she took them to a local Kmart and processed. And of course, at that time they had the machines on the premises, and it was this 1 hour photo development type thing. And so she drops the stuff off there, and they can take the film and throw it in the machine, and it kicks out the photographs and go pick them up. And she did that with these photographs, and somehow it came to her attention that the teenage kids running the machine had knocked off a couple extra copies of those photographs for themselves. And so she sued, and that whole thing became a big thing in the news. I remember reading about that and talking about it on my radio show, which ironically is called Leto's Law. That's the name of this channel came from. And the weird part is that I don't know how anybody could expect someone not to make copies in a situation like that. Now, a police officer with your phone in his hand should not be scrolling through other things looking for stuff that he can steal. But that's the concern I've got about handing my phone to a cop. That's why I don't have a digital driver's license. I don't use digital registration. I don't use a digital ID card for my insurance. I've got good old-fashioned analog paper, which I hand and say, there you go. Can't steal stuff off that paper. But getting back to photographs, I was talking to somebody I know fairly well, and they mentioned to me when I told them that story. He goes, wow, that's food for thought. And I go, why? And he goes, well, my wife and I sometimes take pictures like that. And now he's talking about photographs with film. And I said, where do you get them developed? And he goes, a local drugstore. And I go, how many rolls of photographs have you dropped off with those kinds of photographs on them? And he goes, 5 or 10, which of course is probably 20 or 30. And I go, you understand that every single roll you brought in there, they knocked off the 2 sets for you, because they often do that, and then they knocked off like 5 sets themselves and all their buddies. I guarantee you they did that. Like the idea that you think people wouldn't do that is just a real naive way of looking at things. It really is. And so this is different, okay? What the cop did here was completely wrong. And it's getting to the notion that once you hand your phone to somebody, what they do with it is beyond your control. If they walk out of your vision, your field of vision with it, you have no idea what they do with your phone, okay? And so it's a scary concept. There's a lawsuit filed. But underlying all of this is the FBI contacting and saying, oh, by the way, we found this photograph that he stole off your phone. And just thought you should know that. What have you done as a police officer that the FBI is going through your phone trying to figure out what you got on there or where you got it from? Because think about this. They're saying he just photographed the photo off the screen on her phone. The question then becomes, how did they trace it back to her? Now, here's the thing. I guess they could have looked at the timestamp on the photograph and asked what he was doing at that time and somehow figured out he was writing a ticket at that time, except he didn't write a ticket. He gave somebody a warning. So now I'm very, very curious how they found her. How did the FBI find her? Don't know. These are things we may never find out. But there is a lawsuit, and it does appear that this photograph was, in essence, stolen off her phone. Interestingly, if it goes to trial, and you bring in an FBI agent, gets on the stand and says, we found this photograph, it's going to be really, really tough for a defense attorney to argue against that. What's your excuse going to be? So, it's a crazy story. They're suing. We'll see what happens. And that's theheraldonline.com. Kevin, thanks for sending it. Kate Linderman wrote it. Cops stole nude photos from a woman's phone during Missouri traffic stop, and that's according to the FBI telling her what happened. Keep in mind that the headline says photos plural, but the story says photo singular. So I don't know if it's one or more, but who knows? It's still bad. Questions or comments, put them below.